some really interesting research that we can plant false memories in the brain. And in a different context, one of the emerging areas that's really interesting in law neuroscience is pain detection. And once we understand the circuitries that cause pain, I guess the question is, could we then instill pain and use that in many coercive measures in the legal system as well? So,
why would that be your fucking first train of thought? If we could use it to make it, like, mine's like, oh wow, maybe we can reverse it. Maybe we can undo it. What is wrong with people? That alone should give you enough to be like, yeah, let's not listen to that fucking lady. That is manipulation 101. They're like, oh yeah, well, we're going to know that they don't really want us to do that because it infringes on their free will. So if we make them think that they're doing it out of their own free will, then they'll want to do it. Read about psychology. Learn this fucking shit. It's everywhere. Every person that you don't like right now, that's in the news or whatever, it's all done on purpose. None of them really even fucking matter. None of them are really the true problem. They don't matter. They're puppets. But the copywriting that is put into it, around it, makes you think like the most mundane bullshit shit is like so seen as like the worst actions ever on both sides of the stuff. It does not matter. That's why I don't give a fuck who you voted for or whatever, because none of them are legit. None of them are the ones that are calling the shots. None of them are a big, it's all a production, and they're tired of doing the production. They're tired of doing this big production for our benefit. They're tired of feeding you. They're tired of housing you. They're tired of you needing all this extra shit. So if they slowly integrate you into becoming a fucking form of, like a version of a fucking, oh yeah, we're gonna do the biometric, and now you're part like human, not real human. And then eventually you're not human at all. You're just a robot. So like in 3 generations, probably not even, it's all robots that they don't have to feed or house or care about. But the little people at the top still get to run those robots. And that's why they want to know your thoughts and all that shit, because they're going to pick which of the best minds to help them in the future. You know, because they know there may have been some close calls at different times, but they're not that smart. They're not that intelligent. They just have all the resources and all the money and all the control. So they need people that have a fucking brain to be integrated into this stuff so that they can continue on and make sure that they like give them, because that's all that you are, is a slave that you haven't realized. You think that you're not one, but you are. You're a fucking slave. And you work and you work and you work and you work and you're conditioned from the day that you're born to do so to help continue the system. And they give you fake fucking, like the Bible, I think, is just a big playbook for them too, that they've manipulated. But even within their own playbook, it's like they tell you, like, do not fear and thou shalt have no idols. Like, why you idolize idiots? You fucking hate your neighbor. You fucking listen to the bullshit. And you let fear fuel you, and then you just sit idly by while we watch these things come to be and don't notice. And it's like, how is this happening?
Of your brainwaves, and I could tell that you were all engaged, but most of you were scared out of your socks. Is there any possibility, one of the things that's interesting, is there any possibility that this technology could work while not actually touching your skin? Right? Like right now you have to make a choice to put on a headset or a hat or something in your ears. Is it possible that a wife could have it in the ceiling?
No, not for brainwave technology, but it is possible to disrupt brainwaves remotely. So
You're a liar. You're a fucking liar. They already have it. They're already doing it. They've already done it. They have the Internet of Bodies, which is basically your cloud version self. You've already been downloaded into a place. They already know what you're doing when you're doing it and all that. People like myself get put onto listening shit because we look, like, if you look up certain things or you talk about certain stuff, they fucking keep an eye. And like the more you do or whatever, the more things happen. And like you notice anybody who's ever like against this shit, they're either in a fucking airplane crash or some like major event, or they disappear for a while and come back very different. Like they show you what they do so blatantly. But you sound crazy when you try to explain it to people. Like the whole concept of, I remember being like a little kid and them talking about when they did the fucking thing to a sheep or something, they had like successfully made another one. Like, oh yeah, we did that to this. Woo-hoo. But like they don't tell you they've successfully done anything until they've successfully done it for a long time. And they don't have to clone you per se, but they could have like a very believable actor in a mask. They could have somebody that takes over somebody that they've X'd out that you don't realize because they look alike. There's so many doppelgangers out there that they could and they can mind control you. Most of the people are. We all are. We're all susceptible to it right now today.
if you've heard of Havana syndrome is a belief that people have suffered from. The leading theory is that it's targeted microwave activity of brains to disrupt brainwave activity. There's no proof of it yet, but there's at least a couple dozen cases where there isn't a good explanation for why the individual suffered from disruption of mental abilities. And there's certainly a lot of investment in trying to figure out whether you could target the brain remotely. It's much more difficult to figure out how you could read the brain remotely.
Let's get to that, because I think it's one of the most important and crucial questions about how this develops. And by the way, raise your hands. I'm just going to ask this question and then we'll move to the audience. You talked at the beginning, you said we won't be able to read complex thoughts. It seems as though we can understand emotions. There's some way you can recreate some images inside your head. Where does this, explain where we'll be in 1 year, where we'll be in 5 years, and where you would estimate would be in 10 years in the complexity of thought and emotional understanding that you can have from sophisticated.
I am a futurist. I'm not a perfect predictor of the future, but I'll give you my 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. So focusing on the world of wearable technology as opposed to implanted technology. And I do believe that within many of our lifetimes, we'll see healthy people using implanted brain technology as well. Then we can decode complex thought. But wearable brain technology, I think in 1 year, we will be largely where we are now, but with much better form factor technology. So many companies are launching these earbuds and headphones this year that have sensors that are built in. One of the things that has limited the widespread adoption of the technology until now is that you have to wear something like across your forehead. Most of us aren't going to do that. But when it's the same device that you're using to take calls from and also to listen to music from that also is picking up brainwave activity, it's integrated into your everyday life. Because of that, the decoding will largely be in the same place a year from now, but as healthy people in a widespread way start to have their brainwave data collected, the insights that we can gain through pattern recognition will exponentially increase pretty quickly. So 5 years from now, what we can actually decode will be massively increased from where we are today, simply because we'll have a much greater data set from which we can actually create those correlations. Again, that's frightening but promising, because think about most of neurological disease and suffering are those disruptions of brain activity, which we'll start to be able to pick up. 10 years from now, even wearable technology, I don't think is going to decode complex thoughts, but it is going to decode a lot more. And already, gamers have figured out, for example, while a person is wearing a headset, how to prime a person through their brainwave activity to be able to decode their PIN number and their home address. So you don't have to have your full complex thought decoded to reveal your thoughts, right? It gets at what we think thought is.
And how do you decode somebody's PIN number? You flash a series of numbers and see how the brain reacts to them?
So you have recognition memory signals that are preconscious and subconscious, and this is part of why it's been used, for example, by governments to interrogate criminals. Do you recognize this potential co-conspirator? Do you recognize, this murder weapon? Those preconscious signals, like what we call the P300 wave or the N400 wave, these are before you even consciously process information, so you could prime it with a number and then see if a person recognizes it, and you can do it without them realizing that that's what you're doing.
So will all of our passwords be cracked first by this or quantum computing? Hard to tell. All right.
Interestingly, not just from neuroscience, but also from psychology, there's a wonderful researcher by the name of Elizabeth Loftus, who's done some really fascinating work looking at planting false memories. And she has a great TED talk on this as well, talking about planting of false memories, where she successfully, in a number of experiments, has planted false memories, including people believing that they've been at Disney World with characters who are not Disney characters, taking photographs with those characters, or that they've seen a stop sign that wasn't actually there, simply by manipulating images and stories that she tells to them, and they come back into the lab, and they are convicted in their belief. And so but I want to talk about it in a different way, which is the ability to decode brainwave activity. After all, what you think, what you feel, it's all just data. Data that in large patterns can be decoded using artificial intelligence. Consider this, the average person thinks thousands of thoughts each day. As a thought takes form, like a math calculation, you're happy, you're tired, you're hungry, you're elated. Neurons are firing in your brain, emitting tiny electrical discharges. As a particular thought takes form, hundreds of thousands of neurons firing characteristic patterns that can be decoded with EEG or electroencephalography and AI-powered devices. In fact, what you're seeing here is my brain activity while I'm wearing a simple device like the one on the right. We're not talking about implanted devices of the future. I'm talking about wearable devices that are like Fitbits for your brain. It used to be that there was very little
Of the future. Not the implanted ones like the future. Just the outside ones like today.
we could tell from EEG activity. But already, using consumer wearable devices, these are headbands, hats that have sensors that can pick up your brainwave activity, earbuds, headphones, tiny tattoos that you can wear behind your ear. We can pick up emotional states, like are you happy or sad or angry? We can pick up and decode faces that you're seeing in your mind. Simple shapes, numbers, your PIN number to your bank account.
Haha, I can't see shit in mine. Haha.
It's not just your brain activity here that we can pick up. We can also pick up your brain activity in different places, like as your neurons fire from your brain down your arm and send signals to your hand to tell you how to type, move. All of that can be decoded through electromyography, and that's what you're seeing here is a device now in the form of a simple wearable watch that can pick up that activity. And one of the pivotal acquisitions of the field, Meta acquired this company, Control Labs, in 2019, because major tech companies are investing in helping to make these devices universally applicable as the way in which we interact with the rest of our technology. In fact, the coming future, and I mean near-term future, is these devices being the primary way in which we interact with all of the rest of our technology. Rather than a mouse or a keyboard, you can simply swipe with your mind. Move your hands more seamlessly when you're in VR or AR. Use your brain as the way in which you interact with all of the rest of your technology, which is an exciting and promising future, but also a potentially scary one, a transformative one that will change the way that we interact.
How is that going to work for someone like myself that does not see anything when my eyes are closed? I don't have thoughts that form into pictures. I just know shit. I know what it's supposed to look like, but I don't get the interface. I don't get the imagery. So what you gonna do for that?
Interact with other people and even how we understand ourselves. Let's take a look.
Because it opens up new and forms of control. This is where some of our core technologies like EMG come into play. Neural interfaces, when they work right, and we still have a lot of work to go here, feel like magic.
So if you send a control to your muscle saying, I want to move my finger, it starts in your brain, it goes down your spine through motor neurons, and this is an electrical signal. So you should be able to grab that electrical signal on the muscle and say, oh, okay, the user wants to move the finger.
What is it like to feel like pushing a button without actually pushing it? That could be as simple as, hey, I just want to move this cursor up or move it left. Well, normally I would do that by actually moving. But here, you're able to move that cursor left, and it's because you and a machine agreed which
People are gonna get so fucking fat and disgusting.
neurons mean left and which neurons mean right. You're in this constant conversation with the machine.
This new form of control, it requires us to build an interface that adapts to you and your environment.
It's an exciting future, a seamless future. It's a future that has already arrived in many contexts throughout the world, and especially in workplaces. So it turns out that one of the most compelling early applications of this technology is to be able to decode at least some simple, effective states of individuals that can potentially improve their well-being, potentially improve productivity, but certainly transform what our lives look like in the workplace and in our everyday activities. While we can't literally decode complex thought just yet, there's a lot that we can already decode that's quite relevant for the workplace environment. Consider the fact that right now, many workplaces have individuals who have to be awake and alert at all times in order to do their jobs well. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Take this example where this trucker decided to take a 20-hour shot for a 1,500-mile ride, well exceeding the amount of time that any trucker, long-haul trucker, is supposed to drive. His employer didn't discover his choices until the fatal accident that was disastrous for the company and cost many lives. But he could have known much sooner. He could have detected whether or not the trucker was entering into the earliest stages of microsleep, starting to go from being alert to tired well before it occurred. And he could have done so through a simple hat, a simple wearable hat that has embedded electrode sensors that would pick up brainwave activity and give a score between 1 to 5 to help the employer and the employee know what stage of alertness the person was experiencing and whether or not they were starting to fall asleep. Now you might think, okay, we have driver assist technology in cars already. Why do we need this? It's because this happens much sooner, much more accurately, and gives you the real-time information that you need in order to make choices to intervene before a person is perilously exhausted. And we as a society should want that. We should want the technology that enables us to be.
Are you fucking kidding me? This is what I mean when I say that there's a bunch of fucking morons that make everything fucking bad for the rest of us. We don't need a caution this is hot if we know we're ordering a hot drink. We don't need a fucking don't drive if you're fucking tired if we don't have fucking idiots that drive when they're tired. Like, what the fuck? Don't punish everybody. No, I don't care. Let the motherfucker die.
Safer to all be able to exist in an environment where commercial drivers or individuals who need to be wide awake are wide awake when they're supposed to be. Because when they're not, the consequences are disastrous. While plane crashes are much less frequent than other forms of accidents, at least 16 plane crashes in the past decade have been attributed to pilot fatigue. Which is probably why, in more than 5,000 companies across the world, employees are already having their brainwave activity monitored to test for their fatigue levels. Whether it's the Beijing-Shanghai line, where train conductors are required to wear hats that have sensors that pick up their brain activity, or mining companies.
That thing doesn't even need a fucking human, most likely, in it whatsoever. That thing's like, it doesn't even, it's fast. It's really, really fucking fast. And if it's that fast, and it does what it does, why is there even anybody near it driving it? Like, just eliminate us altogether from the equation, and rather than, let's put some fucking shit inside of you and on you and around you and up inside the boo-hoo-hoo.
Of the world. Employees are already having their brain activity monitored, and it very well may be something that we want to embrace as a society. Okay, you might be shuddering, right? That was certainly my first reaction when I discovered that we were tracking brainwave activity in the workplace and that we can do it at all. But I believe we need to have a much more nuanced conversation about it. Because I think done well, neurotechnology has extraordinary promise. Done poorly, it could become the most oppressive technology we've ever introduced in a wide scale across society. We still have the chance to make it right. All right, well, does the same analysis hold true if instead of trying to monitor whether a person is falling asleep or awake, we decide that we want to monitor their attention levels to see whether or not they're paying attention and being productive? I would argue, maybe not. How many of you wear something like an Apple Watch? Fitbit, smart device? Yeah, many people. It's a many billion-dollar company, many billion-dollar industry at this point. Wearable devices, quantifiable, self, is just a widespread movement. Most people are very comfortable with at least some forms of human quantification. In fact, it's become so widespread that most people feel like there's not that much to worry about when it comes to doing something like monitoring your heart rate. But it turns out that kind of technology in the workplace, particularly when it's used to monitor productivity of employees, where they're moving throughout the factory floor, whether or not they're taking breaks or unscheduled breaks, is the kind of thing that employees resist, unionize against, rise up against, and undermines morale. What we've seen consistently is companies from Amazon to Tesco to Walmart and others have introduced what is considered to be bossware or surveillance technology that employees really don't like it even if it makes their lives better. Okay, well, if you don't like your job, just quit. But what if there's nowhere to go? What if everywhere has ubiquitous monitoring? In fact, during the pandemic, what we found was that 80% of companies admitted that they use at least some forms of so-called bossware technology to monitor the productivity of their employees. Whether it's a white-collar employee monitoring what's on their screen, or in any other context, surveillance is part of our everyday lives. Surveillance for productivity is part of what has become the norm in the workplace. And maybe with good reason. 9 out of 10 employees waste time during the workday. They focus on other things. There may be good reasons why we want to be able to find better ways to monitor whether somebody is paying attention or they're doing something different. The newest way to monitor attention is through a device like this one. These are ear pods that are launching later this year. These ear pods, much like the video you watched earlier, are ear pods that can pick up brainwave activity and tell whether or not a person is paying attention or their mind is wandering. Okay, well, you might think, fine, but even if we can tell whether a person is paying attention or their mind is wandering, you can't tell what they're paying attention to. You would be wrong. Turns out that you can not only tell whether a person is paying attention or their mind is wandering, but you can discriminate between the kinds of things that they're paying attention to. Whether they're doing something like central tasks, like programming, peripheral tasks, like writing documentation, or unrelated tasks, like surfing social media or online browsing.
Dude, you guys are fucked. I'm so glad that I don't have a job with any of these fucking piece of shit fucking people, and I'm never gonna. What is wrong with humans? What is wrong with you? I just want to know everything about everybody. Like, what the? I get it if somebody's a fucking horrible employee, right? But like, if at the end of the week the person's got the shit done that they're supposed to have fucking done, what do you give a fuck what they did with their 9 hours? Because some morons take 9 hours to a completed task that others take too. Leave people alone.
When you combine brainwave activity together with other forms of software and surveillance technology, the power becomes quite precise. So what do we do with this? What do we do with technology that enables us to monitor brainwave activity for attention? Do we embrace it? Do we resist it? I believe that there is a pathway forward with such technology, but it's putting it in the hands of employees, enabling them to use it for themselves as a choice, whether or not they want to focus, whether or not they want the technology in order to improve their own performance, but not using it as a measure of...
It's a bunch of bullshit. They're just, let's manipulate them with some fucking reverse psychology.
Their brain metrics to decide whether to fire them, hire them, or to watch for their lagging cognitive decline over time, and using it as a way to discriminate against them. We might soon even use the technology to help people wake back up. This is a haptic scarf that MIT Media Lab has developed, which uses brainwave technology in a responsive way to give a person a little buzz, literally, when their mind starts to wander, to help them refocus and hone their attention. There's another pathway forward with this technology, which I find to actually be quite exciting, and something that I think companies should be experimenting with.
That's so fucked up. Think about that. That person's tired. That's not gonna help them in the long run. No, it's not, you fucking idiot.
And that is the use of the technology to make a workplace a more responsive workplace to the individual worker. We've all heard the whole idea that robots are coming for our jobs, that there will be no jobs left for humans. With generative AI, I think we have good reason to wonder how we're going to integrate that in ways that keep us relevant.
Put this shit in your body. You're giving them one more step closer. One more step closer. They're gonna know. Who knows what they're thinking, what they're doing, what they're like. Who's a threat? Who's a direct threat to their big plan? And you're all gonna end up anyways. You already have everything in you that they need to do it right now. They could take out a whole town. They did. Look at Maui. Look at California. How come there was no fucking bodies? Because they were microwaved to death. There was no, it was, oh my God.
Important in the workplace, but there's a different pathway forward, which is a responsive workplace. One where humans and robots and AI work seamlessly together in order to optimize a better and healthier workplace. In one experiment, Penn State researchers were able to show that by monitoring brainwave activity with AI in a factory setting, the robot could sense stress levels in the individual and change the speed with which they
Oh, I bet you'd be so fucking stress-free knowing that every thought and every fucking thing is monitored 24/7. That's so calm and cool and collected, right? That's like just like being me 24/7, because I'm always monitoring everything in my environment and inside of it's no way to live. However, I do not believe that they're, oh, let's give it to them to rule for themselves. If they have that capability, which they've already told you they do, they're going to also have somebody overseeing it. You might think that you're the one that's pushing the buttons, but there'll be an override.
giving tasks to the human, calibrating it so that rather than suffering from cognitive overload, it would bring it to levels of cognitive load. This idea of cognitive ergonomics is what I think is the future of the healthier workplace, a place that adapts to our abilities, slows down when we need to slow down, and helps us to reset so that we don't suffer from endless cycles of stress. In fact, Microsoft recently did a study on employees during the pandemic. Using brainwave activity, they were able to discover a couple of interesting insights. One is,
Do you hear that? They've already done it on their employees. From guess who? The dude that wants to destroy the entire world. Oh yeah, we just don't want the sun. He don't want you to have normal food or seeds. Doesn't like, why does he own all that fucking shit? I don't fucking know. He stole the idea from Microsoft. He's never come up with a goddamn thing in himself. He's a thief and a weirdo. Ugh. Did you see how they fucking took it away? Too bad I saved it.
based meetings are more tiring for our brains than in-person conversations. And this is because of misaligned gaze, because of also the way we've scheduled it. People do back-to-back meetings where you have 5-minute breaks in between. They also discovered something else that's quite interesting, which is that the different backgrounds for each person is also more stressful for the brain. So they introduced together mode, which has the same shared background for each of the people who are on the screen, which brings down stress levels, all responsive to brainwave activity. These are innovations that can make our lives better. So what's the pathway forward?
Through manipulation. Oh yeah, you're really in a real world.
In some ways and in some contexts, surveillance of the human brain can be powerful, helpful, useful, transform the workplace and make our lives better. It also has a dystopian possibility of being used to exploit and bring to the surface our most secret self. It threatens fundamentally what our own self-identity is in some ways, and threatens to become a tool of oppression. But we can make a choice. We can make a choice to use it well. We can make a
Yeah, you could, but there's assholes in the world that won't. Fucking god damn it.
choice to have it be something that empowers individuals, that helps them gain insights into their own mental health and well-being, improves their own productivity and wellness, and sets them on a pathway where, like quantifying your heart rate or other kinds of health, it can be something that unlocks potential for humanity. We can't decode speech, and we may never decode full thoughts from the brain using simple wearable devices. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot we can already decode. There isn't a lot that we will not be able to decode in the coming days. As AI becomes more powerful, as the sensors become more powerful, more and more of what's in the brain will become transparent. I believe we have to start by recognizing a right to cognitive liberty. This is a right to self-determination over our brains and mental experiences. It requires that we update existing international human rights like freedom of thought, mental privacy, and self-determination over our own mental experiences. But that's not enough. We have to do more, and corporations have to adopt best practices for the implementation of this technology. That requires being transparent about what data is being collected and for what purposes. Focusing on positive uses for employees to improve their workplace productivity, increase safety, and decrease the burdens on individuals. We also have to be mindful of the changing landscape of biometric laws as this information becomes part of the work.
Have you ever fucking gone to a place to work and they give you like a handbook or like some videos to watch or whatever, and like on your second day you realize that none of that is implemented, none of that we meant that, oh yeah, they say that, but we don't really do it. That's all that is. That's all that is. Nobody ever fucking does anything that they say they're gonna. That's one thing fundamentally that I have found around all of these places, and all, somebody somewhere decided that we're gonna have this handbook and this thingy and this is the rules, and we really don't want to break the rules, but we gotta do it this way so that it's safe and effective and it's nice. But there's always the cutting of the corners. There's always the there's always some fucking bullshit that nobody fucking no.
Place environment and decide to move forward in a way that is best for humanity, using the technologies in ways that enable us on a pathway forward rather than oppress us. We can still choose. I hope it's one that you'll join me in choosing.
Yeah, join me. The battle for your brain. Has anybody under here? Yeah, see, under our noses. A disturbing post about who's behind the wellness brand. Yeah, fucking, they really do think humans are, yeah, they do. We should all just stay human. Yeah, we should, but we're not. Gonna. So many people unfortunately think that transhumanism is merely replacing body parts. No, it's not. It's replacing your fucking entire being. They're going to destroy you. You're gonna be stuck alive forever. And nobody really wants that. You might think that you do, but you don't. You really don't. It's not normal. We'll all be well, they already did that to the people fucking with their digital credit system. Some people just didn't, we didn't switch over. We didn't find them. So they're poor. They have no money. They live on the streets. Even though prior to switching to that system, they were fine. They had everything they need. They lived by the rules. But then something glitched and now all their money's gone and they're fucking poor and out on the road. And this is already happening right now. Oh my God. Yeah, they've been tapped into you since the 90s. I don't care what you think, if you think it's crazy or not, they have. The fact that your fucking Fitbit works is a proof of it. They have it. They're in you. They already know. This is just getting worse.
Be more productive and find love. That's fine.
You're in the zone. Even you can't believe how productive you've been. Your memo is finished, your inbox is under control, and you're feeling sharper than you have in a decade. Sensing your joy, your playlist shifts to your favorite song, sending chills up your spine as the music begins to play. You glance at the program running in the background on your computer screen and notice a now familiar sight that appears whenever you're overloaded with pleasure, your theta brainwave activity decreasing in the temporal regions of your brain. You mentally move the cursor to the left and scroll through your brain data over the past few hours. You can see your stress levels rising as the deadline to finish your memo approached, causing a peak in your beta brainwave activity right before an alert popped up, telling you to take a brain break. But what's that unusual change in your brain activity when you're asleep? It started earlier in the month. You send a text message to your doctor with a mental swipe of your cursor. Could you take a quick look at my brain data? Anything to worry about? Your mind starts to wander to the new colleague on your team, whom you know you shouldn't be daydreaming about, given the policy against intra-office romance. But you can't help fantasizing just a little. But then you start to worry that your boss will notice your amorous feelings when she checks your brain activity and shift your attention back to the present. You breathe a sigh of relief when the email she sends you later that day congratulates you on your brain metrics from the past quarter, which have earned you another performance bonus. You head home jamming to the music, with your work-issued brain-sensing earbuds still in. When you arrive at work the next day, a somber cloud has fallen over the office. Along with emails, text messages, and GPS location data, the government has subpoenaed employees' brainwave data from the past year. They have compelling evidence that one of your coworkers has committed massive wire fraud. Now, they're looking for his co-conspirators. You discover they are looking for synchronized brain activity between your coworker and the people he has been working with. While you know you're innocent of any crime, you've been secretly working with him on a new startup venture. Shaking, you remove your earbuds.
What do you think? Is it a future you're ready for? You may be surprised to learn that it's a future that has already arrived. Everything in that video that you just saw is based on technology that is already here today.